Listen, man, I know exactly what you do. Yeah. This stripe means I've known you guys for a while.
You know, the idea of Copwatch is to make sure that we follow the rules.
It's fun to do Copwatch activities, and no one's tripping on that. No one's going to go, ooh, the big bad Copwatch. We're not worried about that.
I absolutely understand. I'm always very supportive of what you guys do.
You go out there, you make sure that the police don't violate anyone's civil rights, and that's mainly your job.
All of the districts can disregard any units not 35. Other than District 1 cars can disregard 25. We have a lot of people out here. Have a couple of cars continue. Road closed. Again, got all the District 1 cars continuing.
On the ground!
Nobody got your kids! All these goddamn kids, I want to do it like that! You got no camera! And we seen it! And I'm taking the top boys up and down! That's bullshit! Y'all coming flying through here, all these kids up here! Y'all ain't got no respect for the kids! All these goddamn kids! All these kids!
Well, do you know what your rights are when you're stopped or questioned by a police officer?
We're facing, I think, the most sophisticated propaganda machine that's ever been created in the United States media, right? It's like amazing production standards. They dominate the airwaves. They have all this high tech, so that 24 hours a day, most Americans are getting a message that's opposite of the one we want to send.
The police know that they're not supposed to violate the rights of citizens. But the overwhelming majority of these violations happen in a setting where nobody seems to be paying any attention. Showing concern for what the police do in our communities is a small but real deterrent against police misconduct.
You have the right to observe what the police are doing in your community. And that's one way you as a citizen, you as a person, can help make the situation better.
Cops are public servants. They're here to serve you. And if they're disserving you, then you need to change it. And this is one of the ways that you can change it.
We have cultivated a consciousness in our community where everybody's Copwatch. So they don't really know who the organizers are and who the just regular citizens are.
A wise man once told me it ain't what you do, it's how you do it. We let the police know that Copwatch is here, but they never know what Copwatch is. So they'll never know when Copwatch is watching. So really, we keep ourselves on a hush-hush so that they can do their thing, and as soon as they do it, we there to catch them, because we everywhere.
Police review is really important. I mean, it's critical that that arm of the state that has the guns and the clubs be restrained, and it's a very remarkable thing. And sort of the signature characteristic of a real democracy is that there is restraint in the police.
I think it's important that people realize that there are different levels of direct action, you know? You can have a demonstration, workers go on strike, but on a very micro level, the direct action of just walking up to what they call a crime scene and observing the police mishandling a youth actually is a deterrent for this type of activity.
Well, you know, Copwatch is kind of based on the fact that we have a right to observe the police. The police are are community servants. They're employees of our local government, and they're operating in an official capacity in public places. And that means as citizens, we have a constitutional right to watch what they're doing, and we take advantage of that by recording what they're doing with video cameras and with the written word.
Copwatch is the streets. You know what I'm saying? It's the community, man. You know, it's just people that's just tired of things that's going on everywhere, you know what I'm saying, where they may live at, and they want to make a change.
By not fearing the system, you are able to change it.
Get on the sidewalk now! Go! Get on the sidewalk! Y'all crazy! Y'all know that's wrong! Y'all damn wrong!
Cop watching is exactly how it sounds. You know, it's you watching the cops. And not just the normal you watching the cops like you're sitting on your front stoop or out your bedroom window. You're exercising your right as a citizen to see any type of arrest or any type of action that the police are having, you know, and at the same time, you're watching it for your own self, but you're videotaping it, you're monitoring it, you know, as it goes on. So if anything happens where somebody needs to be held accountable or a question comes up, you're there. So it's that type of watching.
I'm very committed to civilian review, and I'm very committed to cop watching and the spreading of the gospel of watching the police, not walking away, not shielding your eyes, not turning away from it.
So cop watching is a consciousness that we have cultivated in our community over the years. We've conducted hundreds of Know Your Rights trainings for school children, for community groups. We hold forums, we have protests, we publish a newsletter, we maintain a webpage, and slowly by slowly we're able to educate the public about police issues in their community, about what's really happening.
However, if nothing else, Copwatch can and will and does inform citizens of their rights as citizens, inform citizens of what is proper police conduct and what is improper police conduct, inform citizens of what you can do to protect yourself, you know, in case you get in any type of predicament with the police.
Now, cop watching, that function that we carry out in observing the police, does not have to be limited to members of Copwatch per se. Anyone can watch the police.
We started Copwatch in March of 1990 because there was a group of us who wanted to work with homeless people, and what we noticed was that even more than food, even more than clothes, what they needed was some protection from the police. Police were attempting to rid the downtown area of homeless people, and they were using a variety of means to do that.
I know I hate this game. And if you're doing something right, you don't need to block the camera, right? You know? You know?
What's also happening is that we needed to educate the community because there was one section of the community that was saying the police were being brutal, they were violating people's rights, that they were harassing people. And there was a whole other segment of the community that had no idea that this was going on.
Get up. Get up. I'll pull you up. Get up now.
Copwatch was meaning to be like a neighborhood watch, except the point wasn't to organize against our neighbors, it was to organize our neighbors to protect themselves from abusive cops.
Was that necessary?
Yep. Are you necessary?
Yes.
We set out to document this activity in order to protect the rights of homeless people, as well as to educate the public about what was actually happening. Early on, we committed ourselves to the concept of nonviolence because we needed to gain the confidence of the community and let them know that we're not out there to stir up trouble, that we're out there to document and advocate for people's rights.
Do you mind this?
No, I don't mind.
Okay, hang in there.
So So for the sake of the community, as well as the safety of our cop watchers, as well as the conduct of the police, we felt that it was very important to assert that we have no intention of interfering and that we'll do as much as we can to ensure the safety of the officers, ourselves, and the person who's been stopped, all the while asserting our rights.
So what are you being charged with, Dan? Did they tell you?
I don't know. I don't know what I'm being charged with yet.
You have a right to know.
Yeah.
Through all these different means that we have of communicating our message, I think the police accountability movement has grown far beyond anyone's expectations.
9 News has learned the Cincinnati Police Division, under fire for the way officers use force, will now have the moves they make examined in a brand new way. 9 News reporter Sean Lay has discovered citizen patrols plan to follow officers. And Sean, those patrols will be armed with video cameras?
They need to go. They treating black people wrong. They some bootleg cops, man. They should get some cops that's on a bar right now.
April 7th, man. Timothy Thomas was being apprehended by some police officers who was just out doing their regular harassing folks. And he was just one that cared about his life and ran. The assassin, Roach, and his lying friends came through this way right here and shot him for no reason. You know what I'm saying? And that was what added up to the Cincinnati unrest.
After Stephen Roach shot Timothy Thomas, it was the 15th black man that had been shot. No white people shot during that whole time since 1995, and since then a number more have been killed as well.
So when April 10th came, it was like, boom, a bubble busted. And it was like, who would have thought that Cincinnati, out of all the cities in the United States, would have been the first city in the millennium to jump off a riot?
There was always this critique that people say that people were tearing up their own neighborhood. Well, home ownership in this neighborhood is 3%. People weren't tearing up their own neighborhood. That's bullshit. People were upset and they were looking for a way to vent their anger.
Ever since the riots, you got children when they're in the car with adults and they get pulled over by the police, they get out with their hands up in the air like that, you know, just so that they won't get shot. But it offends the police. You know what I'm saying? It offends them, but they can't be mad because that's what they do.
People in Cincinnati are pissed off. I think April proved that to pretty much everybody around the world.
I mean, me being a young black male in this environment, I recognized and came to a solid fact that in order to bring change, it starts with one person. So if I feel it within myself to change, then I have to step up and do that on my own. But with the aid of others, with the same alike mind state, the same goal, the same focus, trying to get to that same place, we can do it.
Is 9 News at 5.
Some human rights groups in Denver say they want to start monitoring the police department here. The idea comes from a non-profit volunteer organization in California called Copwatch.
Our first big success, you know, was the Cinco de Mayo cruising. We had a friend of ours who went out to Federal Boulevard over the Cinco de Mayo weekend, in which tens of thousands of young Chicanos cruise, which is a traditional Western activity here in the United States. You drive up the street, you drive down the street, and you meet members of the opposite sex and get their phone numbers. And you also decorate your car in honor of the holiday Cinco de Mayo. Well, the police response to that had been really outlandish. They had roadblocks that were keyed on what race you were, and we were able to document that on video. Every instance of a car being pulled would lead to either arrest or the car being impounded. What we did is we took that to the Chicano organizations on the West Side and showed them that film and got them together and created our first attempt to monitor the police here in Denver. And what we did is we called it United Families for a Safe Cinco de Mayo. We actually got middle-aged people out from the Chicano movement in the 70s and put them on every street corner along Federal Boulevard and had them watch the police as they interact.